Right, to talk more about this, we're now joined by the Western Cape's Head of Disaster Management, Colin Deiner. Very good evening to you. Thank you for your time. As the weather services warn of the series of cold fronts due to make landfall in the province this week, what approach are you taking as a province?
Good evening. Yes, so, over the last 2 years, we've been hit by quite a number of major floods. I think we've actually had 5 in the last 2 years. So although there's been a lot of repair work happening in a lot of areas and a lot of money has been put towards that, we still have areas that are vulnerable. Areas specifically up on the West Coast. There's also the added challenge of cold, wet and windy conditions, which could put us in a situation, with small livestock farmers, that could be a danger for people there. And then, of course, with the strong winds, we haven't had much rain this year. We had some rain today, but there are still areas where the vegetation is still very thick, and we could be facing challenges with prefrontal winds that we might even still see some fires.
So with the disaster management teams on high alert and just watching to see where they need it, what resources have they activated to now manage the incident?
Right, so we have quite a big system that we put in place at all our disaster management centres. So we have the metro, and then there are 5 in the districts. They've all been placed on standby and on a watch to be fully activated if that's required. And then we have our rescue services, our emergency medical services. We work with the police's rescue services and a number of NGOs that we also work with. And then we also have a number of humanitarian organizations that are stocked should we have to move into an area and provide resources to people that are cut off or that have just been affected quite heavily. So all these systems are well tested, they're in place. And if it's required, we can activate that quite speedily.
And of course, with cold fronts, they bring challenging weather conditions to large parts of the country. Which parts of your province have been identified as hotspot areas and areas that officials will continue to keep an eye on?
So I think the cold, wet and windy conditions where we could be seeing quite a lot of cold is going to be in the eastern high-lying areas the western high-lying areas of the Western Cape of the province. Obviously, with rain, informal settlements are always going to be a challenge. And then we're also looking at areas that were affected last year quite heavily, and those are specifically up in the Cederberg region and to the north of the West Coast.
And what would you say have been some of the biggest lessons as you look and reflect on some of the areas that you monitored in previous weather conditions, which needed some monitoring and a good close eye?
I think the most important thing is preparation, making sure you've got your resources in place, reacting early to the early warnings that we receive from weather services. They've helped us a lot. They've been very accurate. So I think those are the important things. For example, last year when we got up to a level 8, we made a decision to ask the Department of Education to close schools, which they did, and that turned out to be a very good decision. So I think really good preparation, reacting to early warnings, and then just, we have a motto or a saying, nobody must wait for us. So speedy response, I think, is also very important.
And what advice do you have to community members, residents, as they, try and navigate these cold conditions?
I think what's important is listen to the warnings, take heed of any advice that comes through, obviously from credible sources, because we do get unfortunately, we get a lot of media reports or, social media reports that are not accurate, that sometimes reflect previous incidents. So I think heed the advice. If it's not necessary to travel, I know that's difficult. Sometimes people have to travel. But if you don't specifically need to, don't travel, stay indoors. And then for farmers, if the cold temperatures are going to be affecting you, small stock will be at risk. So, take care of that. People are normally quite well prepared for that kind of thing. So I think it's just really those important habits that we actually have to get into when we get into our rainy season in the Western Cape.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening as we wrap up that discussion with the Western Cape's Head of Disaster Management, Colin Deiner there. Of course, as weather services warn of a series of cold fronts due to make landfall in the country and in the Western Cape this week.